everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tell Me About. Today's guest is someone I'm quite fond of, Darian Hall. Darian is the owner and creator of Heal House in Brooklyn, New York, wellness studio up in Brooklyn, New York. Welcome to the show, Darian.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. When I thought about doing this show and I thought about Darian is a man of many adventures and many interests. So I thought he'd be a wonderful person to bring to the studio and talk about some of the things that he does and, you know, what's going on today and with the climate, with the election, with the pandemic, and, you know, our young black men being killed in the streets, and just what's going on socially in general. So, Darian, I want to start off by saying, tell us a little bit about Heal House.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. What Heal House is, it's a wellness studio based in Brooklyn, and what we do is we facilitate daily yoga classes, meditation classes. We do a variety of different workshops, and then we do various private services such as therapy, acupuncture, and the whole premise around Heal House is really to kind of normalize self-care and wellness, especially in communities of color and even in more specifically in Black communities.
Tell us, what inspired you to open Heal House? What's the inspiration behind it?
Sure. Really, it came from a host of different conversations from a lot of my friends and fraternity brothers that were expressing different things that they were going through, whether it was different situations at work or being new fathers, being new husbands, just normal things that they were going through, but we had never really talked about them before, right? And realizing that those conversations that we were having were things that really they could have benefited from also talking to therapists, right? So having this idea, or really questioning why we didn't have spaces that incorporated therapy, especially in our communities. And so it really kind of started from these conversations with a lot of my close friends, and what started out as just an idea blossomed into this thing that's now much bigger than myself and bigger than my partner that I've started this with.
Very cool. I would imagine that the pandemic has affected business like it has most businesses throughout the United States. Tell us how the pandemic has affected your business.
What we had to do was temporarily close our physical studio, right? Because everything had to shut down back in March, so we're now been closed the whole year. But we've been fortunate where we were able to transition all of our programming online, and what a benefit to that was that we were able to expand our reach. So unless you were in Brooklyn before, you really couldn't experience some of the things that we were doing. People might have been seeing what we were doing online or seeing the press, but if you weren't in Brooklyn, you weren't really experiencing the programming that we were doing. But by going online, now people are taking our classes throughout the country and beyond. So in a way, it's kind of helped us transition what the business model is and also expanded our reach.
You know, between the young brothers and sisters getting killed by police, with the person that's sitting over on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and some of his policies and some of the things that he's doing, and I look at the election that just passed. Tell me, what is the state of Americans' mental state, and more specifically, or my interest definitely lies there as a whole, but really very interested in people of color. What is their mental state right now?
Yeah, I think this has been a trying year for everyone, right? So everyone is still kind of managing and trying to figure out what this year is, and we're at Heal House, we're kind of in a unique position because we're a healing space that deals with stress and anxiety and all these things, right? So even though I'm going through the same things that everyone else is going through, we're having to hold space for people that are dealing with this, right? So we're kind of on the front line and seeing the anxieties and things that people are dealing with. I'm just super proud and humbled that people do seek out Heal House to be able to get them through this, and that's what it's kind of become for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Especially those first couple of weeks when things were really starting to shut down, people were really seeking out our services, right? And so to be able to hold space for people, and also just for them to know that they're not the only ones going through it. We're all kind of going through this as a people, as a community, as a country, and I do think there's a little bit of light on the kind of the other side of all this craziness that 2020 has been. Right. But it has been very hard for a lot of people.
Absolutely. So I want to shift the gears a little bit. I want a big shout out to Kamala Harris and Joseph Biden. And I know that we all had a very special interest in this election and what was going on. But I want to talk to you about that. Tell me, did you do anything different during this election or to help get out the vote?
Yeah. So I flew out to Las Vegas, where my mom and my siblings are, to get them registered to vote, and then flew back to actually take them to vote.
That's
because
right.
I didn't know if they were going to vote.
Right.
if I didn't take them to. So.
But I think it took those kind of actions from many people to end up where we are with this victory.
Most of our engagement really stems around the presidential elections,
Yep.
and which is understandable. But to see real change, it really has to come from the local and midterm elections. It's something that I even want to improve upon.
There you
right?
go.
And
We all can do better.
Yeah,
with
making
Absolutely.
sure that my engagement is still high during those times, because that's when we can start seeing real change.
Gear shift here, and Darren. So Darren, you're a single man, right? So tell me how this COVID, this pandemic affected you being your social environment, your group.
It affects everything. so myself, I'm a very social person. I live in New York, as you know. I like having my friends around. I like being able to move around as I please, and traveling is such a big part of my personality. And with COVID, it really affected that, right? And we had to be more mindful of who we were interacting with. We couldn't just freely travel the way we wanted to. And so my own mental health, I was becoming more aware of, right? Like, and understanding the importance of like me needing to interact with people. And I think being forced to isolate and sit down, you realize like, oh, I'm someone that really needs to connect with people. And so, I found ways of still being able to connect with people by just inviting some friends to hang out on my stoop, right? And that was my way.
No, so slow down. I want you to slow down on the stoop thing. Can you elaborate on the stoop thing? What was going on with that?
I live in Brooklyn. I have a stoop, and I wanted to make sure I was utilizing my stoop, and I would invite friends to hang out on my stoop, and that was my way of still making sure my mental health was good.
And still had some social distancing.
It was all
outside, safe.
Still had social distancing going on. Might have had a few libations and music, so we're still having some fun. But all jokes aside, it was important for me to still have that connection with my friends and people that I care about, even if it wasn't the normal way that we had done in the past. And I think everyone has to kind of figure out what works for them, because it is a very trying and tough time for a lot of people right now.
And I know, knowing you like I know you, I know this has been very difficult for you from the standpoint of what everyone else is experiencing, of course. And then you like to travel. You like to travel a lot. Tell us about some of your travels, some of the places you've been, some places you've enjoyed going.
Yeah.
And how this has definitely kind of gotten in the way of that.
So for me, traveling is very important to me. I think it's a way for you not only to learn about yourself, but to learn about other cultures, experiencing things that might be outside of your purview, and your understanding of the world, and it really expands your worldview, right? So traveling for me is definitely a way for me to do that, and not being able to have that right now, a part of me feels like it's missing, not to be able to just like jump on a flight and go somewhere. Hence at least by inviting people to hang on to the stoop, still having that connection with people.
Absolutely.
But the traveling for me is just it's extremely important. It's a way for me to feel like I'm really seeing the world and fully living and having these experiences.
Well, we're starting to wrap things up here. There's a little game we like to play here on Tell Me About, where I mention a couple things that you might do during the course of a weekend.
Okay.
And if I mention two things, which one would you take of those two
right,
things?
I'm
What would
ready.
you prefer to do of those two things? So, for instance, would you rather go to a pool or do a beach?
Where's the pool at? Depends where the pool's at. Am I allowed to ask clarifying questions?
Pools in Brooklyn.
We're going to a beach. We're going to a beach. And it doesn't matter where the beach is at. I'm skipping the pool in Brooklyn.
Okay, what you gonna go with? A nice book on the weekend or a nice playlist?
Oh, definitely the playlist. Playlist all day.
Dinner in or going to a cool restaurant?
Cool restaurant, because I like the scene and all of that stuff.
As people think, you like the streets.
Some people say that. Some people say that.
Okay, I'd be surprised that the answer is not what I think is going to be in here. Yoga or jogging?
Jogging.
Oh, interesting. That's interesting.
You don't know me. That's why we're doing the show, so you can get to know me.
And yoga is a big part of it, right?
Right, absolutely.
And so you don't partake?
Listen, there's different things that we do in the studio. Actually, it's interesting that you bring this up, because that's one of the main points of Heel House was that because we have so many different things that we do at Heel House, everyone can kind of take what they need to take from this place, right? So we don't, we're not just a yoga studio, we're not just a meditation studio, we're not just a cafe or a therapy, we're all those things. Okay. And we wanted to create something where people can come in and kind of take what they need from it.
And finally, I think a lot of people will be interesting to hear a lot of people's answer to this one. Michael Jackson or Prince?
Oh, MJ all day. Even though I have them number 1 and 2, and what I always say is that Michael Jackson's the number 1 entertainer of all time, but I think Prince is the number 1 artist of all time. So there you go.
There you go. Well, listen, Darren, you know, this has been real special for me. Proud of you. I'm glad to have you on the show, and I hope you out there, my audience, enjoyed having Darren. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you next time.